Welcome to Molo Consulting TV. Now, in this episode, we're going to be looking at funding. Basically, we want to understand what is funding, why do business need funding, what types of fundings are available, and what institute offer funding, and what are the mandatory requirements to access funding, and what are the common reasons funding is declined. Now, let's start with what is funding. Funding is basically a form of assistance to support a business, which could be basically, financially in most cases. Now, why do business need funding? For variety of things, for expansion, when the business is growing, or it could just be to be able to, to finance a tender or a request for code to buy materials or operating costs. All that will need funding. Now, what types of fundings are available? Now, let's start with the non-financials. We have first the non-financials and the financial funding. Now, non-financial funding is where you could be, getting, request. Maybe you wanna get, marketing materials or a business plan and all that. Where institute like CEDA or GP, Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, will assist you with those non-financials. And then we could include like a grant, because a grant you don't have to pay it back. So we could, in a sense, say it's a non-financial funding. And then we have financial funding. Now, financial funding, we have, bridging finance, for instance. Now, bridging finance is basically, a funding where, for instance, it's needed for procurement finance product, where it's aimed at assisting SMEs that have been awarded a tender or a contract by the public or private sector entities. Now, the program's main objective is to ensure that qualifying SMEs have the capacity to carry out that contract. So basically, they will get that bridging finance in that case. And then another type of funding is term loan finance. Now, this is basically aimed at providing startups and startup and expansion capital to new and early stage business that are owned and managed by, especially startup black SMEs. Now, what institute offer funding? First, you have those that are more directly linked to government. That will be your IDC or any NEF, National Employment Fund, or your CIFA. And then you have your traditional funding, institute like banks or venture capitalists and all that. Now, what are the mandatory requirements to access funding? Basically, you'd need, in most cases, it will be just an application form, all your company documents, like your company registration documents, your tax clearance, your copy of the directors, then their CVs. You definitely need a business plan, which I think in the next episode we'll talk about it a little bit more in details. You'd need your financial statement, especially audited financial statement between 3 to 5 years, or if it's a new, companies, maybe projected financial statement. Now, what are some of the common reasons funding is declined? It could be whole lots of things. It could be maybe the business plan is not, the funders feel like the business plan is not feasible, or the owner is not clear about what he wants to do. It could be, the sales, are not justifiable from the business, from the, projected sales. It could be there's no, how do we put it? Proper off-take agreements with companies that the owner is proposing that he's going to be supplying that particular company. So if there's no those off-take agreements which would justify the sales, to say that why they they will be definitely make the sales, the funders may feel like, how can we really trust that those sales are going to be made. So it could be a collateral, the fact that the owner doesn't have a collateral, maybe his house to back whatever money is trying to access, in case things don't go well. They could attach that. So that could be some of the things. And finally, the timeline for approval. Now, this one, most of the businesses that sometimes, or people who seek funding, tend to neglect that it takes quite some time to get the funding. It could take anything. It could take anything from few weeks to 3 months or even longer, depending on if all that is needed is included in the applications. Thanks for this episode. Please feel free, if you have any questions regarding this, to email us on info@moloconsulting.com, and please visit our YouTube, Molo Consulting TV on YouTube, and subscribe so that each time we have an episode we can be able to notify you. And thanks a lot. Thanks.